Hi guys, this is Lisa from Tinged Blue, and today what we're going to be working on is fixing a hole in a hollow core door. So I have these closet doors here in my son's room, and we don't know how it happened. It was mysterious, probably the dog, but the door was open too hard, and this hinge stop for door stopper, and it was open so hard, went through the door and created a hole. Well, as lovely as this is, I don't want it to stay. So today what we're going to do is we are going to learn how to repair the hole in a core door. And then I'm also going to just touch up the wood frame also, just to, make it all look nice all at once. So if you want to find a supply list of everything that you need and also step-by-step instructions, be sure to go to tingedblue.com and you will find it there. All right, thanks. Alright, so I have my foam insulation. You want to make sure you have a minimal expansion foam, because if it's not and you try to squeeze in there, it can expand too much and then warp your door, or you would, I always think of it like the Pillsbury can where when you hit it on the counter, it's all. That's kind of what it makes me think of. I don't think it's that dramatic, but could be. It'd be kind of fun to experiment, but not on my door. So you shake this vigorously for 30 seconds, which I've done before. And then you screw the straw nozzle thing on. Okay, that's good. And then you're supposed to just squirt it in. I've never actually done this before, so I'm a little bit excited. I like trying new things. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to do a little at a time just because I'm not sure how fast this is going to come out. Ooh, that sounded funny. Okay, and you want to slightly overfill, because you can always get this stuff off. This is so cool. I just kind of want, it's like weird marshmallow foam. Once it's in, I'm just going to kind of scoop off some of it so there's less that I have to clean off later. And it's super tacky, but don't get on your skin. It's supposed to be irritant, so I have to go wash my hands now. We're gonna let this dry. It says 8 minutes, but yeah, we'll give it 10 so it's not tacky anymore. And then what we'll do is we'll shave it down a little bit, and so that we can fill it with the next part. So after I sprayed this door with a little bit of foam, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much left in this can. What am I going to do with it? And I didn't want to throw it away. So I hurriedly ran around and I found in my attic space where there was a door that didn't have any insulation around it from the attic going into the house. So I used it there. So my suggestion, little tip, would be to find other areas before you fill in your door. Find other areas where you can use that foam, and then have that figured out ahead of time so that you can use it and not waste the can. So I was able to use the rest of the can around the little door, and boom, nothing wasted. So now we're going back, and what? Remember how I had scooped off some of it beforehand, and it still expanded so much more. You see that? And it's kind of soft. I think that's why it doesn't bow the areas, because it's squishy-ish. Okay, but I'm going to trim that off because clearly we don't need a tumor on the door. Alright, well, preschool scissors were what was cool, so whatever. Gets into little areas. And trim off that part. clearly if it's sticking over, then it's just too much because we want it to be flat. So I'm going to trim into it a little bit because we're going to use the Bondo Auto Body Filler to do the layer that hardens, and then we'll be able to paint over. Okay. Get this little bit. Okay, now I'm going back to this to clean it off a bit. Give a little shave. Insulation whiskers. So, not gonna lie, when I was waiting for this to dry, I was looking at the Bondo and I was a little scared because that stuff is a little bit frightening. It's like, do not this, do not that, and like just taking the plastic container off, I was like, whoa, I could smell it already. So make sure it's in a well ventilated area when you use the Bondo. And I'm also a little concerned because I've had a migraine for like 3 days and I have like a massive eye twitch. So if you see me like, hey, 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 eye twitch. So I'm worried that the fumes are gonna like attack me and make my migraine worse. But I'm kind of determined to just power through it because I just need to get this done. But the fear is there. Okay. That's good. So it's like a slightly recessed in there. And now we'll mix up the Bondo, and then I'll mix it up on a piece of cardboard, then I'll use the putty knife to fill it in. And it says you have like 3 to 4 minutes to work, so that's why I'm kind of talking about now. We'll fill it in and make it, you know, as smooth as possible. And then once that totally hardens, we'll go in and sand it flat and flush. Okay? Yeah. There we go. I don't have a... I'll just take this off now. There's also this hinge pin, I'm not going to keep it here because then it will just hit the weakened area. So I'm going to put 2 on instead and put the 2 on the other hinges so that it will disperse the impact when the doors opened really hard. And typically I would just put on one of those little spring, I think it's just called like a spring stop. But because this is in an odd corner, it doesn't really have an area to hit there, so then I use this. So I'm going to put on 2 different hinges so that we don't do damage to the door. Oh, I have to push that down more a bit. Okay, so it's super stinky. I'm going to put this on and try to fill in the area as best I can. Alright, I'm going to anticipate now that you're not going to be able to get it like perfectly smooth, hence that's why sanding is so important. Just mix this a little bit better. So the reddish pinkish stuff is the hardener. And guys, it like lists all sorts of crud on the box of what's in there. My son's like a chemistry fool. He loves chemistry, and I'm like, I want to ask him, but at the same time, I don't want to know. It's like, oh, this will kill you. Okay, I'm just going to fill up. Oh my gosh. It says it can clean with acetone or paint thinner. And I'm kind of curious if like fingernail polish, acetone fingernail polish remover would work. So I'm going to just try it when I clean up just because why not? Okay. I feel like it's kind of tricky to get just that area and not like a bunch of stuff everywhere else. I kind of want to like rein it in a little so I don't have to sand so much. So I'm going to kind of go towards the center where the hole is, and then we'll like slightly overfill. I can tell it's starting to harden, so I got to move fast so it doesn't start getting gross on you. Okay. Kind of like is turning into like chewed bubblegum consistency. So that's gross. Alright. Alright, that's it. I can't spread anymore. It's already gumming up. Alright, lovely. We'll let that harden. And I can't remember how long it said on the can. I'll double check. Let that harden, and once it's hardened, then we'll smooth it out. Alright? Alright, that was basically a ridiculous first attempt at using Bondo, and it was like way too thick. So I ended up just removing the blade from the utility knife, and I've just been like shaving off layers a little at a time, just to try to make it as flush as possible before it like totally hardens like a rock. So that's what I've been doing, and I think that will make the sanding process slightly quicker, to not have to go through a bulky layer of Bondo. And I think if I was to do it before again, I would probably have two spatulas, one to kind of mush the Bondo on, but then there's still so much still on that spatula, then I'd have a different one to like smooth it that was clean, that I can like smooth it out and remove any excess. So, you know, sometimes you just try it out and you learn things. And then I'm not going to go too crazy with the razor, because then I'll just, now that it's mostly more or less flush, I'll take the sandpaper once it's fully cured and then we'll sand it. So you gotta wait a little bit. But yeah, so sometimes you just gotta improvise. Alright, now I'm going to take my sanding block and use it to sand down and try to make this as flush as possible. And I prefer the sanding block for this over just a piece of sandpaper, because it's already pretty stiff and will do a really good job of keeping it flush, whereas sandpaper can kind of divot and mold more. Yeah, just kind of going over and then testing it with your finger to see if it feels smooth or not. Okay, now that that's sanded, I'm going to do a really thin layer of spackle. And it's obviously paintable. Maybe it's not obvious, but it's paintable. Okay, smoosh that on pretty good, like that. So it fills in all the divots. Alright, we'll let that dry and then we'll sand it really lightly, and then it will be ready to paint over. Okay, so the spackle was put on, took the sanding block again and just went over it to smooth everything out, using the tack cloth to get any dust, hair, debris, whatever, off the surface that will be painted. So you don't have to worry, I'm just going to go all over just so that doesn't pick up anything. And then get your paint. Just kind of feather it all out. blend really nicely with everything else. Okay, so that part's now painted. Get the little bits out. Now we're going to try. We're going to paint this part. Now it was originally sprayed on, so it's the tricky thing is that this is now being brushed, so it's not going to have 100% same texture, so I'm just going to try to feather it in a little. And I may have to do more than one coat. I'm doing a really light coat to feather it in. Yeah, I'm going to do more than one coat for that. But that's all there is to it. Go watch the paint dry. Alright, I have the second coat of paint on and it's letting that dry. I'll probably hit it one more time to really give it a nice smooth finish, but we've got this patched all completely. I added the hinge. I moved down to the hinge pin stop that was up here. I moved down to the next hinge, and then I'm going to add one to the very bottom so that when it's open in the future, will no longer be the weak spot that gets hit with that stopper. And yeah, it's done. It's good. So thank you so much. If you want to see all the details and supplies, instructions step by step, go ahead and go to tingeblue.com, and thanks for watching.